Hi, I'm Alyssa. This is my video discussing critical thinking and my myth. So talking about critical thinking, I think critical thinking is being able to think past what's directly in front of you and being able to analyze and dig deeper into what is being stated and just trying to apply it into everyday life rather than just into like what you're being taught and what you're being thinking or what is like directly in front of your face. And critical thinking can even apply to everything that like you're not 100% sure on, and you can use it to ask questions and learn about it, and being not afraid and confident in saying something even if you're not 100% sure on. And in a quote from Hook's excerpt, it says, "Sadly, children's passions for thinking often ends when they encounter a world that seeks to educate them for conformity and obedience only." I think that's really interesting because we are always told about critical thinking and use critical thinking this, critical thinking that, but like when you actually think about it, we're not taught to use critical thinking in the way that it could be the most utilized and the most beneficial. We're really only taught to see what's directly in front of us and to only know the correct answer rather than like both sides and dig deeper into what's going on. And so to use critical thinking, I'm gonna discuss the myth that we repress traumatic memories. And so repress means either to restrain, prevent, or inhibit, or it can also mean to suppress a thought, feeling, or desire in oneself that it becomes or remains unconscious. And I think that's interesting because it's kind of saying we do it on purpose rather than just forgetting, which forgetting is like on accident. And those traumatic events are ones that obviously incite trauma in a person, and the ones that we don't want to remember, but and that's why like do we actually repress and make ourselves forget these memories rather than make ourselves repress and like push them down rather than just like forget them like we would like a math problem or whatever. And so I think it's really interesting because there's a article written by Richard J. McNally called "Debunking Myths About Trauma and Memory," and in his article he claims that a lot of researchers are publishing evidence that are misinterpreting the events, because the person who experienced the trauma may not have completely encoded the events in the brain. So not that we do actually repress them, but that more it's not fully in like the coding in our brain, which I think is really interesting because like how do they actually know that you're just not fully like memorizing it and fully encoding it? Like I think of it like when you're studying, like are you actually like memorizing it, or are you encoding in your brain, and how do they know they're doing that within the memories? Like I'm curious to see how and like read deeper into these studies about how the emotions are processed and how they can tell whether those emotions are actually forgotten or repressed. But he also claims that those people are unable to process and understand the emotions that are associated with the event, which is why the brain chooses to forget it rather than just repressing the memory and repressing those traumatic events. So McNally basically is saying that it is a myth that we do not actually repress traumatic memories because either we don't encode them fully in our brain or we just cannot understand what is occurring, rather than just forgetting them or like and repressing them, like forcing ourselves to repress them. It's our brain kind of doing that. But on the other side of it, in media specifically is where I have mainly seen it, that we do repress our traumatic memories and that there's ways of kind of unlocking it. And I see this a lot in like TikTok videos, and I've seen it in some movies where these people experience these events and they just can't remember them, or they can only remember bits and pieces of them. And so in these TikTok videos, these so-called psych professionals that either have like their doctorate or they're a psychiatrist or therapist or whatever, they're giving inside tips and tricks on how to actually unlock these memories. But I'm really curious the credibility behind those and finding out and doing outside research. But I'm kind of skeptical on those TikTok videos because I feel like everyone's experiences are different, and I feel like they can't just categorize like, oh, you have this and this, so you're repressing these memories. And I'm curious what the scientific evidence is that they actually are repressing these memories, because like the article on McNally has credibility and has research on it. But what I'm more curious about and some questions that I have is like, why is there such conflicting evidence between the human brain and repressing memories, and how are they actually able to determine if that person encoded the information in their brain or if they're just subconsciously choosing to forget and repress these memories, and like how those researchers and people doing these studies determine that within the person, and how that person is able to like accurately tell. And also, why are these so-called trained professionals on media and social media and like TikToks and everything, why are they talking about repressing traumatic memories and everything if there is scientific evidence saying that we do not repress, we just more forget, or the brain doesn't understand what's going on, so it's not able to fully process it. But overall, I think critical thinking has allowed me to dive a lot deeper into this myth and be able to discuss both sides and learn about both sides, even if I'm not 100% sure on what's going on, and being able to read like McNally's credible essay rather than like compare it to social media and how these myths are getting spread. And I'm more curious to dig deeper into like the not actually encoding it, because I'm leaning more towards that side, that we more do that rather than just repress the memories. But yeah.